Laughter echoed in the air, while the dragonling coughed up blood repeatedly, his body trembling and powerless to do anything to stop Lucifer. Later that day on Earth, things weren't looking much better for Hyung. Covered in wounds, he was getting harshly scolded by his coach for getting into a street fight. To make things worse, he was being forced to take a long recovery break right before his important matches. After the lecture, his coach finally dismissed him, and as Hyung made his way out of the gym, he couldn't help but mentally blame Lee for the mess he was in. Just as he reached the exit door, Kang walked into the gym, leaving the two of them awkwardly face to face. Kang immediately noticed Hyung's beaten-up appearance and sour mood. Without hesitation, he asked what had happened to him and his hand. Hyung, feeling embarrassed, couldn't bring himself to admit that he'd been beaten by some random, weak-looking guy. Knowing that Kang was one of the best boxers in the country, a sneaky idea popped into Hyung's head. He lowered his bruised face, putting on a shameful and sad expression, and started lying about what had happened. To make it more convincing, he even forced himself to cry, letting tears fall onto the floor as he explained how he had stepped in to help his brother who was being bullied, only to have the bullies gang up on him and beat him mercilessly. He really went all out, crying like a little kid and covering his face, trying to look like an innocent victim who was just trying to do the right thing. To Hyung's surprise, Kang didn't seem moved at all. He simply ignored the tears and walked past him, casually reminding Hyung that he had no one to blame but himself. Kang told him he needed to be more careful, especially before his competitions, and walked away without another word. Seeing his plan fail, and with Kang now out of sight, Hyung immediately stopped crying, his face shifting to one of disappointment. But just as he turned to leave, he froze when Kang suddenly called out, "By the way!" For a moment, Hyung panicked, thinking Kang had seen right through him and realized the whole thing was a fake act. But to his surprise, it was the complete opposite. Kang actually believed him, and was now asking for the name of the person who had done this to him. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Mu was still sitting on Lee's dirty bed. He couldn't stop thinking about why he couldn't return to his original body, his frustration and confusion growing by the second. Based on his divine knowledge and of course his experience, there could only be one reason why he wasn't able to return. It had to be that his body was seriously damaged. Even this reason didn't sit right with Mu. He was convinced that not only was a dragonling, someone as strong as a god, protecting him, but his godly body wasn't something that could be easily harmed. His eyes widened in shock as the realization hit him. He pieced the whole incident together and thought, what if all the gods joined forces to attack me? That seemed to make the most sense. He suddenly jumped out of the bed, panicked. If his theory was right, he didn't have time to waste. He needed to act fast. But try as he might, he couldn't think of anything to do, and that only made him angrier. Frustrated, he punched Lee's pillow to release his anger. The thought that things could spiral out of control if he didn't return to his body made him feel even worse. The idea that those gods, who wouldn't dare face him one-on-one, were now cowardly taking advantage of his situation was unbearable. Unable to hold back his fury, Mu started punching the bed and the pillow repeatedly. In his mind, he wished for just one chance to turn the tables and teach all those cowardly gods a lesson. If he got that chance, he vowed to make stew out of the lot of them. Finally, after a few minutes of messing around, he got tired and stopped punching. He realized it was better to calm down and think things through. He reminded himself that the dragonling, his protector, wasn't someone who'd go down easily, even if all the gods teamed up against him. That thought helped God Mu calm down a little. He started to think, if I can't do anything about my original body right now, I might as well focus on this one. At least it'll give me a better chance of staying alive. With that in mind, he headed back to the training area. This time he was putting his full effort into strengthening the rest of his body, ignoring his arm muscles for the moment. Training his abdominal muscles for the first time made Mu feel like they were screaming in pain. But oddly enough, that pain made the training more enjoyable for him. While he was hanging and pulling himself up, the more pain he felt, the louder he laughed. He laughed so hard it echoed around the place. Of course, his obnoxious laughter made everyone around him think he was some crazy, creepy kid. Just hearing and seeing him annoyed them to no end. In the middle of his intense training, someone suddenly called his name. The unexpected voice startled Mu, causing him to lose focus and fall straight to the ground with a loud thud. The person who called him was none other than the girl from before, Lee's class president. She was clearly annoyed, but not because of Mu's loud noises. No, she was upset because Lee hadn't shown up to school for several days. To avoid making a scene, they decided to have their conversation somewhere calmer. They found a bench in a quiet corner and sat down. Mu started the conversation, casually saying, "Why would I need to go to school? It's not exactly a place where I can train my body." Hearing this, the girl frowned and asked, "Why does he want to train all the time anyway?" Mu shrugged and replied simply, I trained to get stronger, that's it. The class president tilted her head and asked, "And why do you want to get stronger?" Mu grinned and said, "To fight better and take on bigger opponents, of course. My body's too weak right now, and that makes everything harder." From there, Mu launched into an excited rant, rambling on about his reasons for fighting and training. He talked for hours, barely stopping to breathe. The girl had no choice but to sit there and listen to his endless nonsense. By the time the sun was starting to set, she still hadn't managed to convince Mu, to come back to school. She was running out of ideas, but then, suddenly, an idea clicked in her mind. Casually, as if it were no big deal, she said, "What's the point of training so hard if there's no one to fight you?" Her words hung in the air, catching Mu completely off guard. To make his point clear, he asked Lee to take a look around, pointing out that there's no one here who could challenge him, no matter how strong he gets. The girl stood up and, as she started to leave, said, "All you have to do is come to school, meet some people, and start some conflict. Then, you'll have plenty of people to fight." With that, she walked off, leaving the boy to think it over. As she left, Mu couldn't help but feel a little impressed by her reasoning. She had a point. After what he did to those poor bullies, they wouldn't dare come near him again. And without them, he needed to find someone stronger to fight if he wanted to improve and make this body stronger. For the first time, he actually considered going to school. Just as he was mulling it over, a shadowy figure appeared behind him and called out, asking if he was Lee Ho. The figure was wearing a mask to hide his identity and carrying a weapon. Mu, on the other hand, didn't bother answering the question. He already knew what this was about. His shocked expression shifted into one of relief. Things were going much easier than he had expected. Now, he didn't even need to search for his next opponent, as his opponent had come straight to him. With a small smirk, Mu simply turned his head, calmly preparing himself for the inevitable first strike and the confirmation of battle. It was obvious that the masked guy was Kang Cheol, but there was something about Kang that set him apart from the other bullies Mu had faced. Years ago, when he was just 15 and starting to excel in boxing, his sister had become a promising rookie ballerina. As her only family, Kang supported her in every way he could, mentally, emotionally, and however else he was able to help. Everything was going well until she caught the attention of a creepy stalker. Soon the man's obsession grew worse with each passing day, until one day, he completely lost control and crossed the red line. He secretly followed her, and when she turned into a quiet alley, he decided to make his move to carry out his sick intentions. Luckily, Kang happened to be nearby and saw what was going on. Before the stalker could harm his sister, Kang jumped in and, with a surprise attack, managed to stop him before any damage was done. The police were called and the stalker was arrested, but because Kang had stepped in before anything illegal actually happened, there wasn't enough evidence to punish him properly. The man was released not long after, but his obsession had now reached a dangerous peak. It had turned into madness, mixed with a thirst for revenge. Before long, the creepy man found the girl again, this time in another quiet spot, but now he had brought along a kitchen knife, clearly planning something much more cruel. However, Kang showed up once again, seemingly out of nowhere, and stopped the crime. But this time he wasn't fast enough. His sister's leg was badly injured, and her future as a ballerina was shattered, like a swan with broken wings. Kang blamed the law for failing to protect her, and from that day on, he decided he couldn't trust it anymore. Instead, he vowed to do whatever he thought was right. His first act? Beating that creepy man within an inch of his life. But that was just the beginning. Kang resolved to handle what the law couldn't. Whenever he came across a suspicious gang or someone who looked like they were about to bully or harm others for no reason, Kang would step in. He'd give them a warning, not with words, but with a not-so-gentle move using his new favorite weapon. Fate turned Kang into an anti-bully vigilante, someone who saw fighting not as violence, but as judgment. And so, the reason he came after Mu wasn't much different. Back to the present, Mu stood there, accepting Kang's preemptive punch without